All right, so attaching affixes is generally called affixation. We already talked about that in class. It is worth to point out that most derivational affixes are suffixes that are also, although in mental quantity, derivational prefixes. Right? For example, I think you have seen them as you do some of the exercises that we say on, like for example, do and undo. There is a prefix there, or wash and rewash, and write or rewrite. That re, that on, those are prefixes, but they are not as many as we have suffixes. Let's see. Then maybe some time for you to take notes or anything that you're doing right now. All right, let's move on. Next slide. All right, so the new lexeme usually, but not always, belongs to a different category than the root or the base, right? So this is also something from the workshop. Not always the new word is going to belong to a different category, but in most of the time, it will belong to a different category. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it belongs to a new category or not. The important thing is that the lexeme is different. It is a different lexeme. So the meanings of the base and the resulting lexeme end up being related whether the category changes or not. For example, in king and kingdom, right? We can see right here. We can see that this is a derivational suffix, and it's transforming the word king, which is a noun, into another noun, kingdom, right? King and kingdom are nouns. Even though they are both nouns, they are different lexemes, and the meanings of these two words end up being related. They are related, but they are not the same lexeme, which is the important thing. The important thing is that they are not the same lexeme. Okay, can I see here in the chat? Juan Jose, you say your internet is not working well. How about now? Is it getting better or something? Has it improved? You say you just hear at times. Maybe it's because I'm speaking at times. Not really sure. All right. So for the moment, I'm going to give you a minute there. Since I cannot see you face to face, I don't know if you're finished taking notes. But then again, I don't know. I'll give you at least a minute. All right, let's continue with the next slide. Okay, so this is an example of how derivation can work in a word, right? For example, happy, we can have the derivational prefix unhappy, or the derivational suffix ness to create happiness, and they can work at the same time to create unhappiness. All right? In this case, happy and unhappy, they belong to the same category. Happy is an adjective, and unhappy is another adjective. Happiness is a noun, and unhappiness is another noun. But even though they belong to the same category, they are different lexemes, right? So that's something you need to have clear in your head, is the difference between when you have a different lexeme with the same category, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the same category. The most important thing is that you have a different lexeme. That's the most important thing in derivation. Okay, guys, moving on. Okay, so the derivational processes have this characteristic of recursiveness. So what's recursiveness? Recursiveness is, or it basically means that you can repeat the process many times. Maybe beginning from the same root, you can continue to create new words and get a very long word. So that's basically what we mean when we say that a process is recursive. It means that we can do it many times. We can do it repeatedly. So obviously, derivation is a very recursive process. And I'm going to show you an example in just a moment. All right, so let's move on. By the way, don't get confused. I'm just giving you time to take notes. But I'm not done. Okay, this is what I mean when we say that derivation is recursive, all right? We can begin with the same root, operate, right? From this root, we can add this suffix ion or shun, whatever, those two are okay. Then we get operation. Then we can take operation and we can add as, which is a suffix that creates adjective, and we can create operational. Then we can take operational, and from operational we can add the suffix I. And the suffix I creates verbs. So from operational we get operationalized. Then we can take operationalize and attach this suffix right here, able, which normally creates adjectives too, and we can get operationalizable. And lastly, we can take operationalizable and add ed, which is a suffix that normally creates nouns. And we can create operationalizability. I don't think it's a real world or in quotation marks a real world word that you can find in a dictionary, but it's a word that you can create with the derivational processes of English. So this is what we mean when we say that derivation is recursive. See how many times I operated on the same root. I began here, operate, and I ended up here, operationalizability. Don't worry about this word right here, operationalization, the one that is in the corner. We're going to talk about that word later. I'm going to give you some time to take notes. Okay, moving on. Roots versus bases. And here's where I'm telling you that I believe this in this part, we're going to understand better the difference between a root and a base. So we can say, to begin with, we can say that these two elements can be the starting point for derived words. So both roots and bases can be the beginning of new words that we create in English. That's a similarity that they have. I can begin a new word, I can attach new adjectives to a root or to a base in order to create new derived words. Right? Those two have that similarity. But although they may perform the exact same function in derivation, they are not exactly the same type of element. Not exactly the same type of element. They have somewhat of a difference there. And the difference is basically what I already told you previously, is that normally a root doesn't have anything else attached to it when you begin. Because normally roots are simple words. They consist normally of one morpheme and no more than one morpheme. But a base can have more than one morpheme already there. So that's one of the differences there. I'm gonna give you some time to take notes. If I'm going too fast, write it on the chat. All right, so moving on. Next slide. All right, so here's an explanation of what I just told you, but with an example. So a root is the core of a word. It is a part of a word that cannot be broken down into any other unit. It does not have any affixes attached to it. Other affixes can be attached to it to derive the word. But a root, at the beginning, it doesn't have any affixes attached to it, right? If you take a word and you separate all the elements, you take away all the suffixes, you get to the core, you get to the starting point, to the origin of the word. That's the root, the one that cannot be divided anymore. That's the root. But a base, sorry, I went away right there. All right, so a root is the core of the word. That means is the part of the word that you cannot divide anymore. You cannot divide anymore. So when you have a word and you separate all the elements, you separate every element of the word, and you get to the last element that cannot be separated any further, that is the root, right? It's the origin of the word. You cannot separate it any longer. That's a root. But a base, on the other hand, it's a form that can have other affixes that were previously attached to it. And a base is a form that you can divide, that you can also separate into its more basic form. So, for example, if I have the word operate and then transform it into operation and then into operational, operate will be the root, and it can also work as a base because it's a form of a word to which I can attach affixes and create new words. So, to operate, I'm going to attach ation or shun, and I'm going to create operation. In this case, operation can be a base for more or further derived words, but it can only be a base. Operation can only be a base, but not a root, because in this case, it already has this affix attached to it. Right? Looks horrible. I think you get me. Right? Operation already has this thing attached to it. So we cannot consider operation a root because it already has an affix here. It can be a base, but not a root. In this case, operation can be a base for operational. Right? It's right here. And at the same time, operational can be another base for another word, but not a root. In this case, operational and operation are not roots. They are bases, but not roots, because they already have affixes attached to it. In this case, this one. In this case, these two. All right? So again, I'm going to give you some time to take notes. All right, question. Can I move on? Does anyone have any objections if you're not finished with your notes? You can write it on the chat if you're not ready. All right, so let's keep going. So we can say, as a conclusion for roots and bases, we can say that all roots can be bases because all of the roots can work to derive new words. So all of the roots can be bases, but not all bases are roots, right? Because some bases already have affixes attached to it. So in those cases, they are not roots. But every root can be a base, right? Sorry. So, words that were previously derived can serve as bases for other derived words, but they are not the root of the new word. I hope that with this explanation, that was a little bit clearer about the difference between a base and a root. Anyways, I'm going to have a space very shortly for questions. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me those questions there. But Not yet. Let me get to that section just a little bit further in the class. All right, so let's move on. And actually, before we move on, let's go back to this section right here. Operate, operation, operational, etc. So the question for you right now is, what is the base for the word operationalization? Operationalization, the one that is here in the corner. Right here. What is the base for that word? Okay, think quickly, because I'm going to ask some of you, or one of you. All right, the question. Let's see. For the moment, Diane, are you there? Diane, are you there? Can you talk? Do you have a microphone? All right, I don't know if it's because I'm sharing the presentation, but I cannot hear you for the moment. But all right, you can answer the question there in the group chat. Sorry, not Diana, but Diane. All right, so the answer for Diane was operate. And the answer is incorrect. Okay, Alejandra, you say in the chat, you say operationalize. And that's correct. So the date for the work is operationalized. So this is something you can get used to in the future when we are working on separating work. For example, when you see something like lization, a word that ends in lization, you can get used to the fact that it has two affixes. It has I and Asian in whatever form. All right, now we can move on. All right, so derivation and inflection combined. So traditionally, linguists, when they talk about morphological processes, they like to separate inflection from derivation. But normally in practice, those two processes are combined. Normally they work at the same time. So for example, a derived word, let's say you change a word from a verb to an adjective, right? Let's say you have a verb and you transform it into an adjective. The new adjective is going to have the inflectional characteristics of adjective. Or let's say you transform an adjective into a verb. The new verb is going to have the inflectional characteristics of a verb. So for example, operation, which is a word I already showed you in the previous example. We have operate and then operation. In this case, we transform operate, which is a verb, into operation, which is a noun. And because it is a noun, it can take inflection for plural. In the other case, operationalize. Operationalize comes from operational, right? Operational is an adjective, and it transforms into a verb, to the verb operationalize. Because it is a verb, it can take past tense. And lastly, with the same verb operationalize, because it is a verb, it can take third person, present, and singular. So as you can see, derivation and inflection can happen basically at the same time. Those two types of suffixes, derivational suffixes and inflectional suffixes, they can be present sometimes in the same root or in the same base, basically in the same derived word. So it's not like derivation is an enemy of inflection and they are two different processes. No, they are just different sides of the same coin, different sides of morphological operations. But they can basically work at the same time on the same word. Okay, I'll give you another minute there to take notes. All right. Okay, so here, an observation of the right words in terms of this word normally take regular inflections. We already talked about irregular inflections, zero morpheme, internal changes, suppletion, right? Try to remember all of that. When you derive a new word, normally that word is never going to have suppletion or internal changes or zero morpheme. Normally, those new words are going to be regular words because irregular formations are normally closed class. What do I mean with closed class? It means basically that you cannot add new items. You cannot add new items to these classes. For example, when was the last time that you created an article? Or when was the last time that you created a preposition, right? Those categories of words are normally closed because you cannot add any new words into them. But for example, nouns or verbs, they are created regularly. Uno de los últimos que le ofendió a tanta gente en español, coger WhatsApp y decir WhatsAppear, que creo que ya no se puede hablar y todas las cosas. En ese caso, lo que se creó fue un verbo, WhatsAppear, con todas sus conjugaciones en español, ¿cierto? En ese caso diríamos que la clave de los sustantivos es abierta, porque podemos crear más sustantivos y podemos añadirle más a los ítems que están en esa clase. Pero los demás ítems que son más gramaticales son cerrados. Alright, back to English. So, we can say that those irregular formations, like zero morpheme, suppletion, and internal changes, normally those are closed class because you cannot create new irregular formations. Okay, right now it is 10 minutes to 3 o'clock. I'm going to start the presentation right now, and I'm going to allow for some space in the question in the chat. If you have any questions right now that maybe we can address about the presentation, this will be the moment. So think about any question that you have. Maybe write it there in the chat. Anyways, I hope everything was clear, or as clear as it could be. I hope the presentation was very clear too. I hope you have taken screenshots of the presentation and you have them. You can study them later. Okay, for the moment, I see no questions. So, I recorded all of this explanation. Hopefully, if I can get this application to work correctly, I'm going to get the recording and I'm going to upload it to YouTube. And I'm going to send you the link for the video later. So for those of your friends that could not make it into the chat, maybe in the future, we're going to use different tools. Maybe we're going to use Google Meet, and I don't know, maybe Zoom, and see if those applications work better, because some of you just told me at the beginning that you were having problems with connection and with listening to me. So I don't know, maybe we can use in the future different tools. For the moment, we're going to start the presentation right now, and we're going to continue later. I left you an exercise on that model. You can download the document, but please don't develop the activities yet. We are not finished with the presentation, and when we are finished, we're going to begin developing the exercises in class. So for the moment, please do not solve them. Do not solve those exercises.